Welcome back. Our next session will delve into the intriguing topic of glocalizing. May we have your attention, ladies and gentlemen? Our next session will delve into the intriguing topic of glocalizing, tailoring approaches for diverse markets. This concept shall help us explore how companies can adapt their products, services, and strategies to meet the unique needs and preferences of specific local markets. To guide us through the session, we have a remarkable panel of speakers who will bring a wealth of experience and expertise in navigating global markets while ensuring a local touch. Let me invite on stage Mr. Srikanth Srinivasan, Vice President and Head, Membership and Outreach at NASSCOM, who will act as our insightful moderator. A huge round of applause for Mr. Srinivasan. Joining him on stage, we have Mr. Arun Patnaik, co-founder, CEO, and director of AABSyS Information Technology Private Limited. If you could please join us on stage, sir. Next, may we have on stage Mr. Rajesh Raju, founder and CEO, Achala IT Solutions Private Limited. A huge round of applause for sir, please. Also join me in welcoming Mr. Priyankar Baid, CEO, OutsourcingHubIndia.com, that is OHI. Over to our panel.
Thank you. Well, I think morning we had a very, very interesting discussion with Ms. Arvind Thakur on account management and things like that. And now I think we're stepping a little further and talking about how do we kind of customize our offerings to the clients, end clients, and that's how the topic has been structured. Glocalize for different markets and different approaches. I'm sure all of us will agree that today the client is becoming even more demanding. Customers have always been demanding, but I think the demands are only increasing with time. We were talking of customization, personalization, went on to hyper-personalization, nano-personalization, micro-personalization, anything that you can call, but eventually it has to be personalized to the end user's needs. That's how the businesses have been and continues to be so. More so in a world today where for them too it is equally more competitive, and that's the reason why they are expecting all of that. With that coming, I think we have a very eminent panel of three tech SME industry leaders here. All three of them representing various kinds of businesses, various domains of businesses, and hence we will get a good perspective, very heterogeneous perspective for all of them. We'll start with a common point that each one of them will be can touch upon, and we can go in any order as you would. The first thing is I would request each one of you to touch upon the key factors that prompted you to glocalize your business. And how did this change bring in a competitive advantage for you in your respective areas? Arun, if I can start with you.
Hello. Hi, thank you, Srinivas. So, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. So, just to talk about our company, AABSyS IT is an end-to-end GIS services company. We are operating out of Odisha, and we are an export-oriented IT company with customers around the world. So, as founders of the company, when we do not come from IT background. So I just want to emphasize on this point. But what we started out was with a purpose that we wanted to set up a IT export services company from Odisha. So we were already dealing with two constraints. One is that our services will be from Odisha. And the second constraint was that it has to be outside of India. So to say, glocalization. So for us, when we looked at what are the opportunities, we found that there were availability of engineering skills around our state, around our region. So that is the area we focused on: GIS, CAD, engineering services. And then when we thought of, which geography to go, global. So that was again a question whether to go to the US, because we were not coming from IT background. We didn't have much knowledge about where to go, how to go. So it was a very big challenge. But amongst our team or our shareholders, we had a German, my cousin, who was my partner. We just thought of an idea to start an IT company. So he was a German. So we thought, okay, that is our comfort zone. So one thing was the purpose, then we focused on the domain, we focused on the geography, and when we started to look at Germany as a geography where we want to go, we want to check out how does business happen in Germany. So we realized it's not like you write an email or you send emailers or you make a phone call, and that's not how it happens in Germany. So we realized that in Germany, there are a lot of trade exhibitions which goes on. There are very specific trade exhibitions which are focused on GIS industries. So we targeted to visit some of these exhibitions. And when we went there, because we had a shareholder who was speaking in German, we found some interest. And that time, of course, in 1998, there were not very many Indian companies going to Germany. So we were able to crack some entry into the market, but it was a very good opportunity for us because working with German clients gave us the strength to set up a very strong, robust processes because they are very precise on what they want. We had to be very, very communicative, keep them on the loop, and that was actually the foundation on which we were able to scale up our company.
Great.
So,
thank you, Arun. So I think your secret sauce was point of presence, right? You wanted to be where the customer is, where the market is. Rajesh, if you could dwell on this.
So we are from Achala IT Solutions, based from Hyderabad. Just a quick introduction. We have offices in Hyderabad and Bulgaria, and a small office in Munich. So our journey is also started with Germany as a prime market and automobile sector. But coming to the question here about the factors for globalization, so we were an established company with around 200 people pre-COVID. So the first impact that we had seen as many companies and our journeys is especially during the COVID time. So the revenues were down 10 to 20%. So the big question is, what do we do? How do we come back to the normal state, right? So that's when the thought process started, and NASSCOM had a delegation going to Canada, and first delegation post-COVID. Then I said, maybe I should explore the market. Maybe let's invest the time and effort to step out and then see out of German market and then see how it goes. So that gave me quite a good revelation that maybe we don't want to focus in automobile in US, and maybe we should get into the fintech market or the financial services. And that actually gave a breakthrough subsequent trips in entering into the financial services market. So that's number one. And number two is, as we were thinking about the automobile market or the German market, then Putin started invading Ukraine. That was a second factor. So now suddenly post-COVID and the Ukraine, the European market started thinking, hey, we want to do local. So the same local concept they want to do. They already started, 2021-22, saying that, hey, let's do business around Europe. Let's not step out too much. So that kind of prompted us, hey, we should also do something. We cannot expect, IT services to be doing, same way. So we went ahead 2 years ago, started the journey in looking at nearshore centers. Is it Romania? Is it, Hungary? Or is it any other established market? Then we identified Bulgaria. Again, couple of trips, one trip again with NASSCOM that established. It is a little bit different, the Bulgaria. It is a little underdeveloped, but there is a 30% gap in the salaries and living expenses compared to German market. So that kind of prompted us to start something in Bulgaria. Today, we are a 20 people team in Bulgaria, and that business is growing faster and pushing a lot of work back to India. It's like a dual engine growth, right? So it is helping us quite a bit. So from my point of view, those are the two factors which drove us towards globalization.
Great. Thank you, Rajesh. I think so. You've extended Arun's point of presence at the market to even going closer to the market. It need not be that geography, right? I mean, it could be a near shore kind of a option. Great. So Priyankar, I think you work in a completely different domain, completely different continent. So how did this happen for you?
Right. Yeah, so I think for us, localization is in multiple dimensions. So it's not just geography. Geography is probably the obvious dimension. The other one would be more, specific to a particular industry. And that's how we kind of, so I would see it in two different phases. Just as a background, we're a financial services company, been around for about 18 years now. And we, around 2011-12, we did a complete shift to anchor our entire business around one key industry, which is real estate. And some of it was by design, some of it was by default, as in life. But then everything else which we did was essentially anchored around that particular industry. And then the second shift which came in was US has been our largest market, as it is for many of us here. But we started venturing into Canada, we have clients in UK, and now we're looking at Middle East. And why did we go in some of these geographies? I think one was definitely we started seeing interest from these geographies based on the value proposition which we had built for our real estate clients. And when we started venturing into them, we realized that whatever we have built for our US market would, with modifications, also work for the specific local markets. And an industry like real estate is predominantly local. Even some of the largest players in the world have a very strong local anchor or local bias. And when we started doing that, then we started figuring out how to sell to different local countries.
Great, thank you. In fact, I would like to continue the conversation with you now and come back in the other order, because I was about to come to that to say that this whole real estate market is a completely localized market, right? Even in a large country like the US or even any other country, state to state, city to city, the dynamics change. At least in the US, I think even state to state, the rules change, the regulations change, the statutory changes. So how easy or difficult it has been? Because you adapted to beyond US, you've gone to Canada, Middle East. I'm sure you've seen some amount of commonality. But within the US too, where you've grown most of the organization, how easy has it been to kind of change and adapt to these changing circumstances?
One thing I think and that is true for real estate specifically, is it's very dominated, the industry is dominated by local regulations and local conditionalities. So just to give you an example, like in US, one of our large segments within real estate is affordable housing. And we work with some of the largest companies in the world in that area. And that is dominated by what is happening at the state level. So for example, California has a large segment of affordable housing. Similarly does, let's say Atlanta or Texas. So what we had to figure first was that this industry operates at various sub-segment levels. So we initially tended to, and it took us a few years to figure that, it's not just real estate. Real estate is just a label. Within that, you have various sub-segments, and each of these sub-segments are multiple $1 billion in, market size. So once we figured that, then our language, our marketing collaterals, our designations, our service packs, all of them evolved for, speaking the same language as what the customer wants.
Absolutely.
So that's one area which came in. Anything you want me to add to that?
No, I think you're right. I think you've touched upon it, right? I mean, it is about it is about changing, addressing the changing needs, right, from time to time, because these regulations also keep changing often?
I'll add a bit more in terms of the country part because it's the second part of the question.
Yep.
So when we moved from US, I mean, when we also expanded to Canada, it took us some time to figure that what works in US doesn't work in Canada always.
Exactly.
The sales cycle is very different. The decision-making process and the timelines are very different. So, I mean, Canada is a lot more consultative in decision-making versus US, which is very direct, very kind of top-driven. So in US, it's easy for us to scale up a client, from 0 to 10x probably in 2 years or 1.5 years. In Canada, just going from 0 to 2x will take us probably, first 1 year. But then the anchor, and once you've built that initial trust, they stick on for you for long, and that is an investment which we have to do. So when we moved to UK, then that became a very different experience altogether because some of the terminology, some of the sizing, what we offered in US and Canada was not working for UK. So some of these local nuances you have to figure, and there's no better way than to, attend trade shows, meet customers, even if it doesn't result in a business. Often it will not, your first 2-3 visits will probably be a blank. But, if you look back, and if I look back, our first US trade show was in 2008. And the first customer we got out of a trade show was in 2020. So you can see the expanse. But what learnings we got from there helped us in other channels.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Priyank. So Rajesh, now stepping from there, I think Priyankar spoke about one specific domain, but again, it's a very huge domain, right? Multiple offerings there. But then you have a larger suite of services as a solutions organization, right? You do applications, you do BI, you do automation, and so many other things. Now, given that this journey could have, I'm sure, has been fairly challenging because customizing one domain is easy, customizing multiple offerings across domains is probably that much more. The matrix is becoming more and more complicated. So how has this journey been for you?
Actually, it's more like in the early today morning conversation as well. It is more about getting deeper with a few customers, right? That's kind of how we leveraged into breadth of services. So we are deep into automobile, so application development and services. So our customers are BMW, Volkswagen, Audi, Daimler, which contribute around 80% of revenue. So if you look at really the automobile industry as say, right, there are two verticals always. One vertical is the industry 4.0 because it's manufacturing, you have automation, you have a lot of IoT, you have a lot of digitalization, you have a lot of cloud. Then the vertical way, if you really look at last few years, right, it started off with telematics. When we started the business, then it got into connected car. Then it gotten into a completely new era of autonomous robots and autonomous driving. Then last few years it's been about electrification. Today, if we really talk to our customer, yes, they're all important. They're already in various stages of maturity. For example, BMW today wants to sell a car like in e-commerce. This is something very new. They are saying that customer is able to buy anything online. Why do I need a dealer? So fundamental shift. The customer will just order a car with few configurations. We'll deliver the car home. Dealer is only required to do my servicing. So they are actually launching this as we speak. So that's kind of, when you look at these kind of transformations and you have the technology side also evolving, so we have to evolve. So otherwise we are out of business. So one constant thing I would say it's about change is the constant one, and we adopted to be in automobile sector. And as the change is going, we adopted our services and offerings.
Great. Thank you, Rajesh. So Arun, I think while you have been in the, and as you rightly said, right, you came, IT was new to you when you started, and then, but you've gone in, but your end customers continues to be a brick and mortar business, right? Mining and things like that. Now, how has this journey been? Because you've been focusing on not primarily mining, but related areas, right? Engineering, design, the GIS part of it, and so on, and especially in a slightly not so easy market like Europe. So how has your journey been on trying to customize and reach and get closer to the customer?
So good question, and I'd also stick to the topic of glocalization because I think one of the things that we have to understand is that when we are giving our services to customers around the world, they are in different geographies, and we got to understand their cultures very well, how they respond to a situation. So I think our approach has been that, we build strong rapport with our first customer, because like I said, we were starting from scratch. And we try to build that trust with the customers, where they allowed us to get into their house, and they trained us on higher value of things so that they got the advantage of working with us. And that's how we started going on the value end, or adding value to our services and taking that value-added services to different clients across the world. So that is one thing. And one other important realization which we have made a lot of mistakes in this journey. And I will point out 2 or 3 examples of what we did, or real life stories. One was, I was in Germany, and we had done our homework, and we had a very good meeting with the customer in the booth, and I was supposed to meet them. And they said, so when are you coming? When will you come? I said, I'll come between 10:30. They said, no, you please be here at 9:45. We are meeting at 10. So just to tell you how they would respond to something from you it can just take your business away from you. And it really did, because in another situation where I was supposed to meet a client at 9 o'clock, I was there at 9:02, and he says, your appointment time is over. And this was a very big customer. And there's another good one. I think in 1999, when there was a cyclone and all the telephone lines and all the internet lines broke down in Odisha, we were working with some clients. So I was very nervous as to how do I keep the client informed. And so what I was doing was I went to a telephone booth. That time, the international calls were very expensive. So I used to call them up twice, no matter what it cost, and just update them about how things are passing by here, what is the situation. And what was surprising to me is, after a year when we met in a conference, they worked with different vendors across, different geographies, not only in India. They said that your company was the company which actually communicated and gave us, we never felt uncomfortable or we never felt unsure about. So I always tell and as we grew, we focused on building a very strong team. We built cultures around how to be responsive, how to be very attentive to the customers. But I just wanted to tell this point that they actually told us that you are the company who kept us absolutely informed, and we feel very comfortable working with you.
Great. Thank you. I think that was pretty useful. I mean, if I can, and I know we're conscious of time, but maybe if I can summarize what the points that all of them raised, I think, of course, being close to the customer location was the foremost, but I think understanding customer business, changing and adapting to what the customer wants, of course, building trust, understanding their culture, and I think, and summing it up with what Arun said is being transparent in your communication, I think definitely builds trust with the customer and probably a long-term business too. With that, I think we're almost close to the time. I think probably we have time for one question, if we can. If anyone one question we could take, a raise of hand. If anyone has a question, please. Yeah. Anyone? Kindly identify yourself and ask a question. If none, thank you all. I think it was a great discussion. I'm sure it's useful insights for everyone present here. And of course, you can meet the panelists here. They would be at the venue, and you could definitely run into them during the lunchtime, and of course, ask your questions in person too. Thank you again. Thank you, Arun, Rajesh, and Priyankar.
Well, thank you for this very interesting session, which tells the overarching importance of change being the only constant. What involves us must also involve us. To felicitate our panelists, I take the opportunity to invite on stage Mr. Vineet Dahiya, Director, Info Accent Technologies. A huge round of applause for Mr. Dahiya. Thank you so very much.